Hello, welcome to oziTarget Map. This video we're going to talk about the new alarm features and we'll start with the settings. So if we open up settings, we've got a new tab on the end here called alarms, and if we start in the top left we've got the master settings. So if we want to enable the alarms so that we get visual warnings and audible warnings, we'll turn that on. If you don't want any warnings at all, turn that off. If you just want the visual warnings, you can mute the chimes and the voice. Okay, but for the moment we'll leave it like that. If you want, you can select from a couple of different voices. It seems to depend on the setup of your computer. One computer for mine offers a male voice and a female voice. This one seems to offer two different female voices, and basically you can test them.
Scoring period ending in 5 minutes.
And decide which one you like.
Scoring period ending in 5 minutes.
And you can also change the speed so you can slow them down.
Scoring period ending in 5 minutes.
Yeah, baby. So just depending on how urgent you're feeling.
Scoring period ending in 5 minutes.
So you can play with that. Next thing we want to look at, we've got logger marker warnings. We'll come back to that in a minute. Actually, we'll start up here. Altitude ceiling, probably a good one. Whatever the event ceiling is, you can turn that on. You can set the ceiling altitude. You can give it a buffer so that it warns you however many feet before. And you can decide whether it gives you an alarm and a voice, meaning a noise, or if it gives you voice only or alarm only, depending on what you want. So the alarm you can select from a range of different sounds, depending on how annoyed you want to be. So have a play with those, choose the one you want. I'll probably add in a test for the audible alert as well, so you can hear what it's going to tell you, but basically it just gives you the heads up that you're about to bust altitude. Anyhow, prohibited zones. So we're going to turn these on. We've got a horizontal buffer in terms of how far away from the PZ it'll start warning you, and a vertical buffer for how far above the PZ you need to be before it stops yelling at you. Might change that range, doesn't need to be 1600 feet, but you get the idea. So we'll set it at 70 for the moment. And then you have the two zones. So you've got a warning zone, as you, like I said, 200 meters away or 70 feet above it. You can get same thing, alarm only, alarm and voice, or voice only. So I'll just leave it at voice only. You can't change that because you're on voice only. And then once you actually enter the PZ, again, you can get an alert sound and vocal warning. We've got an Open PZ Manager button here, which I won't use for the moment, but well, actually I can show you. That will show you that tool there. It zooms the map out to show all the PZs that are acceptable, but we'll step through that in a moment. Only other setting down here that may be of interest is the highway and railway PZs. You can set your radius in feet or meters. I know in Scottsbluff you're at 300 feet radius, and you can adjust your overlay opacity. So we'll set that up a little bit higher. Make that 60. Okay, so let's close that out. And we're going to start playing with our tracks. So the first thing that's different here is in the track file we now have an alarm column, and basically any track that you've got loaded will initially have the alarms turned off. So if you want to turn alarms on for anything, so red PZs we want alarms for and roads we want alarms for, turn those on there. With those on, we can then go to tracks, PZ Manager. And what that does is it gives us those two tracks to work on. So we'll start with the red PZs map. We can go select all. It'll highlight all those individual areas within that red PZ file, and it'll give you a list of them here with the altitude that they're set at. So I've reset these to minus 777 feet, which is pretty normal for Aussie tracks that have been generated without altitude. Yours may be different. So you have the opportunity here to select all and set the altitude. So for example, if you knew that the majority of the PZs that you were dealing with were 4,500 feet or 4,600 feet or something like that, you could just type in 4,600 and apply that. So now all those PZs will trigger at 4,600 feet, but they're all over the place. They're different altitudes. So we can just cycle through them. We go to the first one we're selected here. So you can see the one you're working on is highlighted, and that is actually 5,000 feet. So we type in our 5,000 feet, add that. So now number one is 5,000 feet. Now these numbers don't correspond to the PZ number. They are the section within the PZ file, or within the track file. So we just go to the next section. It's 4,600 feet, that's correct. We go to the next one, 4,600 feet, that's correct. Next one is 4,500 feet, so we'll edit that. And you'll see when I put a new altitude in, it becomes a preset here, so we can quickly reuse it. We'll go to the last one, 4,400 feet. So we type that in, add it to that. So now we've got the altitude set for all of those. Next one we're going to look at is the roads. So the two road sections I know are 4,300 feet. So I can add that to that one. And then to show you how this works, just select that and it adds it to that one automatically for you. So once you've got a couple of presets that are basically what you're using on this map, you can just click those and it'll set them for you automatically. So that's our altitudes done for all our PZs. So at this point, you'd want to go back into your list and save those, or resave your project with all of those set. So what does that mean now that we've got all those set? Well, let's zoom in. Let's have a look at the road as the starting point. So on the road, we now have a 300-foot radius or 600-foot wide red strip across the top of our road. So if we go back to our settings here, we can adjust the opacity on that to make it as solid or as light as we want. So if that became 800, you get a gigantically wide road, and 300 radius, you get that. So what does this mean in terms of alarms? Well, let's set up the simulator and show you. So we'll start nice and close. So we'll start navigating here. And in a moment, we'll come up to that 200 meters within the boundary for the warning area for this road PZ.
Approaching prohibited zone. Climb above 4,300 feet.
Okay, so we've got that warning. We've got a little highlight, which you can probably vaguely see on that around that warning zone, and also up here we get a message and we can dismiss it, and we've got a button here for open profile. So for flying over roads, we have a profile of what the PZ looks like. We've got our current rate of climb, so we can see how much of it we're going to hit.
Prohibited zone. Climb above 4,300 feet.
So now we're in the PZ, we're getting penalised. And in a moment we'll pop out the top of it, and this will change back to warning. Okay, so the warning's gone because we're far enough above it. We've gone above 4,300 feet. And now we can bomb back down the other side. Depending on where we come down, we'll probably still be within the warning zone. So we may trigger the
Approaching
warning
prohibited
again.
zone. Climb above 4,300 feet.
Unfortunately, it's not quite smart enough yet to realise that you're flying away from it, but we may get that sorted. But basically, once we leave that 200 metre zone, that warning will clear. And we can get on with our lives. So I'll close that down. So that profile tool is also available in Track's corridor profile. And we will probably set up buttons and things like that for that as well. So if we go and have a look at a regular PZ, similar deal. We will start our navigation here. And as we fly towards this, again, once we get within 200
Approaching
meters,
prohibited zone.
the warning
Climb
zone
above
lights up
5,000 feet.
and we start having to get into a climb to try and avoid that. The profile tool doesn't apply to this one. You just have to use your own smarts to get over the top of it. And you can see we left this way too late. There's no way we're going to get over it. And again, once we hit the actual PZ,
Prohibited zone. Climb above 5,000 feet.
you'll get a very polite message to turn the burners on. And again, once we climb out the top of this, which we will eventually, you'll see as we leave, you can slow this down, as we leave 5,000 feet, we'll go back to being in warning mode. And once we get to 5,070 feet, the warning will turn off. So again, if we lose concentration, drop back down below 5,070 feet, we get the warning again.
Approaching prohibited zone. Climb above 5,000 feet.
And again, outside that warning zone, it turns off and life will go on normally. So you can fly across the top of a PZ above the 5,000 foot warning and you won't hear about it. You won't know anything about it until you get within your buffer zone. And again, that's going to be up to the pilot to choose. We will set ourselves up to fly to that. I need to unlock it. Navigate to that. Okay. So we're going to miss it. And I haven't got my transit tool here. Let's go. Transit tool. Okay. So we're going to miss it by 68 meters. Turn all my timers on. ETE is a minute 30. Let's speed this up a little bit. So again, in our settings under alarms, we've got our logger marks. So we can do that. So we'll get a reminder, voice only. We'll get a reminder at 30 seconds. We can have one at 15 seconds or 3 seconds. The way these work is that this second band will have to be less than 30 seconds. And then this band, because this one's 15, this band has to be under 15 seconds. So it automatically trims them for you. That's why they don't, like they're even. So then the actual alarm itself, when we get to the mark, we can go for an alarm and voice, or we can just go for voice, and same thing, we can go for
Drop in 30 seconds.
different warnings. Okay, so that's given us a 30-second warning. We're getting closer. You can see on our ETE
15.
here. Now for the last two warnings, it will only give you the time.
5.
There we go. So I'm going to make an adjustment to that as well so that you can adjust the lead time so that it'll tell you to drop now a certain amount earlier, basically relative to your speed. And then you can dismiss that drop now warning. Now, if I go back to here and I start this navigating again, I go back to my settings in here. We've also got a voice drop now repeat electronic mark. So we can have electronic mark warning repeat every 5 seconds after the drop now. If you're forgetful like me, it will remind you to push the logger button while you're busy cheering at the crowd after having thrown the marker. So again, we'll go through our sequence of warnings.
Drop in 30 seconds.
So it's a little bit late triggering. I'll have to have a look at the timing on that.
15. 5. Drop now. Electronic mark. Electronic mark. Electronic mark.
Okay, it's lost its warning window.
Electronic mark.
Okay, so that's a bug. So don't turn this on because it's going to drive you nuts.
Electronic mark.
Okay. So do not turn the electronic mark warning on because it's supposed to have a button up here to allow you to dismiss it, but for some reason it's not triggering. Anyhow, that's the beginning of the alarm system. You have a play with it. Enjoy.